that was something else I was wanting, AI education, if you'd been kind of thinking along those lines at
Oh
all.
yeah, yeah, gosh, I mean, I would say that I have moved from being tech open to now, like I would say I'm tech negative squared. I remember early on when iPads came out, and I work at a school that has made the decision. It made the decision a long time ago to be consciously to make the conscious decision not to be a one-to-one school, right? And a one-to-one school is which all the kids have laptops, right? And so we made the decision, no, like we're not. We're gonna kind of double down on be intentional about old school,
Yeah.
and I'm really grateful that we did that. And I remember when iPads came out, I was interested in them because I like gadgets, and I said I made a proposal to my boss and say, hey, look, people are asking us about the iPads. How about we use one of my sections as an experimental section? So we did. So we bought the kids iPads, and we did the whole year on iPads, and we did as much on them as we could do. And this is early on, so we were getting new apps in the middle of the year and trying this out and trying that out, and all that sort of stuff, right? And it was cool. I'm glad I did it. It was a really interesting thing. But so I was asking the kids at the end, and I was, I of course I grew up before the internet, right? I completed. I say this. I've said this before, but I completed like a week or 2 weeks before I turned in my master's thesis. I got my first email address,
Mm,
right?
man,
So like literally in that, so I'm turning in this massive, you know 3 bound copies of my master's thesis, and then I get this email. That's so cool, right? And um so I so everything that I read for my entire formal education was on the page. And so when the iPads came along, and Kindles had been around a little bit, but whatever, I wasn't really into that. But I thought this could be cool. So we did everything, we every book that we decided to read, we did, on either Kindle app or the Apple Book app, and we did everything we could, right? So at the end of the year, I'm asking the kids, like, so, well, what do you think? And every one of them is so interesting. Every one of them is like, I mean, like, I love the gadget. The gadget's great. But like, if I really want to read, I have to, I need a book, and of course I've done a lot of research and reading after that fact, and everything, you know, agrees, right? Screen reading is different qualitatively than page reading. And it's basically that everything on a screen induces an F pattern. You read the top line, you skip down to the middle, then you read to the middle of the middle line, and then you go right down to the bottom, right? Whereas when you read on a page, it's a Z pattern. And so, and when you read, you're reading the line and the next line at the same time, right? You're sort of
mm,
pre-reading as you're reading, and so it's a way of kind of, it's almost like you every time you read on a page, you're reading something twice, right? Because you're Z reading anyway. So at that point I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought I was just going to be the old fogey who was like, well, I don't like this, but the kids are surely going to love it. And the kids were, I had a pretty good rapport with the kids, and they were pretty honest with me, like, yeah, like, look, look, if you're going to give me this gadget, like, I'll take it, 10 days out of 10, right? No joke here. But really, so I was sort of skeptical at that point. And really what killed my any residual enthusiasm that I had for gadgets in the classroom was COVID. Having to pretend that Zoom and an LMS, were some kind of adequate substitute for what happens in a classroom. And in a weird sort of way, as awful and horrible as COVID was, and as horrible and awful as COVID continues to be, um, the one thing that it did is that it really slowed down the kind of confidence of the tech boosters in education. And so it'll be interesting to see how that thing kind of plays